Hey, I'm Warren Bounty, and this is my spoiler review of Castle Nocturne, A Common Enemy in Evil. Now, I'm gonna say up front, it's an 8. Now, let's get into why I feel like it's an 8. In my opinion, it's an 8 because the first scene is a very powerful scene. It's a great opening scene. You have a mother with her child, the mother Julia Belmont, the child Richter Belmont, having her send her son away to France because of killing Orox's lover, and Orox is hunting her now, and she knows that. And she's scared that she dies. Obviously, he's gonna die, right? Because Richter is not strong enough to defend himself or even help her kill Orox, and Orox is a very powerful vampire. So as this first opening scene is going along, we're shown how Julia's trying to explain to Victor that he has to go, and Victor doesn't want to go. He wants to be there with his mother and help her, kill vampires. Well, Orox intervenes in that conversation. They start fighting. And what I love about this fight is how they show two things. One, how capable Julia is as a vampire hunter. And two, how advanced the Belmont family has become in the terms of power. And when I say power, I mean Julia is shown not only using um the enchanted weapons that they have, which is the whip that she currently uses against all rocks, but now she could use sorcery. Before, Trevor Belmont in that first anime, he couldn't use sorcery. He could only use the enchanted weapons. So right there you have, oh man, this is why Julia Belmont is such a capable hunter. She's more powerful. She has sorcery, including her training as a Belmont, with the powerful. I don't know if it's relics or inscriptions that make the weapons powerful than the standard weapons, but enchanted weapons, I'll say that. So now she has sorcery and enchanted weapons. So she's shooting ice. She's blowing. She's casting fire, and she's getting the better of Orox because of this. And she does this one beautiful move where she shoots icicles, catches Orox's arm, and then whips the whip on his chest, and it slams him, sends him flying into a building. And I'm like, dope. And then he falls, and then she's like, flames. I'm like, oh man, that guy's dead. No, 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 or we wouldn't have a series, right? This dude turns into a dragon and then shows, hey, this is my true form, and then starts like pretty much. It's like it's almost even ground at that point. In his current form, in his human form, he wasn't enough for Julia, and then so like he's now in dragon form. It's almost like a Super Saiyan, right? And like he's attacking Julia, and it's almost even ground, and then this is where he gets the upper hand because Richter gets in the way. He tries to help his mom. Orox laughs, slaps him, not slaps him, but laughs and starts going towards him. So quickly, Julia runs to protect her son, and while she does that, she loses sight of Orox, which you obviously know in a fight, you never want to lose sight of your opponent. And then as he comes back into her sight, it's like too late. She has to make a quick, uncalculated move, which is throw Richter out the way and take the blunt of the force of Orox charging in. So that's what happens. He then pins her and then starts to try to kill her. But she blocks it. She uses the ice shield to block the final blow. But in that moment, they take the time to let it sit for us, the audience, to really have that like gut feeling, man, this is the end. And oh my God, it's Richter's fault. And then it's, you know, we have that emotional attachment of everyone has a mother, and it's like, oh, you don't want to see someone lose their mother, like because you think about your own mother, you wouldn't want to see that someone killing your mother in front of your eyes. That's dramatic, but that is what happens. And before that happens, though, Julia says to Victor very calmly, which I love too. It's like she accepted it. and I respect that. That's how they wrote her off. She wasn't in a panic, and I thought that was very beautiful. She kept her composure, and she just said to Richter in her final moments, you know, I'm sorry. And then bam, Ice Shield breaks. Then Olrox kills her, and then Olrox, in a gangster way, goes up to Richter and says, "Hey, you know, your mom. I know your pain because your mom caused pain in me," and tells him why, because she killed my lover. And he says, "I can't kill you now, but I won't. I'll kill you later." And like the psychological damage that man did, or vampire monster. Well, it's a vampire, so I guess monster, not even a man no more. A demon from hell. Well, he's not even a demon from hell, he's just a vampire. But that monster left such a scoring, which we'll see later in this episode on Richter. Like you already see in the kid's face, he's, you know, he's gone. He's he's like, oh my god, my mother's dead. So he leaves him with the psychological damage, and then this next part I think was beautifully done as well. It shows like how much he didn't even care about Julia Belmont. He steps over her, right? Like if she didn't even exist no more. Instead of stepping on her or around her or anything to show like you know that was a person he just fought, they make him step over her. Like if she wasn't even a second thought anymore after after him killing her. Now we fast forward 9 years, 9 years into the future. Now Richter is in France, and now we hear Maria, you know, someone that Richter becomes close with, not just her but her mother, and she's part of this revolution that wants to, you know, get rid of the monarch and adopt this new, you know, government system that Paris has, which is republic. They call it the republic. And while Maria's, you know, talking to, you know, these people in the forest with Richter, you know, chilling in the tree, you know, vampire assassins get sent to well, they're not assassins, they're messiah of the messiah they believe in that's coming, right? And you could tell because they have a mark on their foreheads, and it's, I think it's an eclipse. It looks like one. It looks like a sun. It looks like some kind of sun or moon or something. And so they go there. They're trying to kill Maria, trying to put a stop to the revolutionary. And you know, Maria's is speaking how like the rich are taking over the poor, not taking over, but or they don't care about the poor and they're taxing the poor too much, and the poor can't afford to live, and like, and you know all that basic like rich um uh rich get richer while the poor gets poorer scenario. So they go there, and in this part of the episode, which is still in the beginning, which I like this part too, with the fight, because now they show Richter as like a young adult and how capable he is now himself. And they also show, which is very important, him not using spells. That is very important to note, because when he's a child, he was able to cast spells, but he's not using spells here. He was just using the whip, the enchanted weapon, the whip that his mother had, and then daggers to kill off these two vampires. And then Maria, which is so cool, she can summon familiars. Now, what I like about that is how Maria, the way she has to control the summons, she has to like point, like it's like a like she's like directing them, right? Directing them. And she says this well, I'm getting too ahead of myself. I guess I because I've seen the whole series, so I gotta stick with this first episode. But anyways, so so I like that. They limit her in that way. She's not overpowered and she's not too weak. So anyways, so they fight. They did. She could do familiars. Belmont can't use spells. He could just use the enchanted weapon, and they kill off these vampires. I like how we're seeing Richter. being confident in this fight. He's confident. He's like sweating. And he's just like doing his thing. This is like easy work for him. Killing these kind of vampires, or he's more than capable of doing it. And then Maria too, which is surprising because she's younger. She's a teenager. She has confidence too. She's brave. She's not scared. She's right there backing up Richter, and they make a great team as they show in that little fight. But then they realize, well, Richter does. Richter's like, hey, we should go to the Abbey, which is like the priest in Castlevania, and she's like, you know what? Yes, let's go to the Abbey, because I think they realized this was bigger than they can handle, because this was the first time he had to kill three vampires, which he explains to the Abbey when he goes to the church. And what's the I'm gonna look up the guy's name. um Ms. Mizrak, which is that the Abbey's right hand man, pretty much. And they're monks. So they're monks, and he's talking to the Abbey and telling him how he had to kill three vampires, and we need to investigate what's happening. And Maria's explaining how it's probably most likely the monarch, which is the king, and he's hosting them at his house, which I wrote down here, the chateau. And the Abbey's like, no, that can't be. They care about us. So the Abbey's like, yeah, he believes in the monarch, and he believes that they care about the people. But Maria doesn't seem like that. She's very headstrong about how they don't care about us, and they treat us like crap, and they're overtaxing us, and we can barely live. So she has no trust or no faith, and she believes they're working together, which she's right. They are working together. And then we go from there to her, Maria and Richter heading home. They stop real quick to look at the pub, and she's like, "Go on and have a drink if you want." He's like, "No, no. Your mother said we had to get you home, so let's get you home." So they go, and they start heading home. And then they show one of the guys that were there at the revolutionary, um what would you call that, like meetings. And this poor guy is just having a drink. You know what I'm saying? Just having a drink after almost being killed. He's like, man, that was wild. I need a drink. I just want to relax. And he looked happy after he got out the pub. So he's out at the pub, which we call the bar, but this is in Europe, so the pub. And he's going up the stairs, and you see, a vampire waiting for him, and bam, he gets snatched up. Now, I like this next scene because they set up so many things so quickly in a nice way. It's not too jarring, which I like. So in this next part, this vampire is talking crap about how everyone tastes like crap. No, it's not exciting happening in this town. Blah blah blah. After they drain him and the vampire woman, he's dragging a body into a pile of bodies. Now, if you know anything, those pile bodies represent how they're gonna be turned to night creatures. Why else would they leave a pyro corpse? So you have a pyro corpse and these hooded figures of vampires with the mark of the Messiah, hovering over these bodies. So now we're being told, if you're paying attention, if you've seen the first Castlevania, it's going to be used for night creatures. So from there, we go to Belmont, and Maria's telling her mother everything that's happened, and that the monarch doesn't care, but the people do. They were listening, and then Richter is having like flashbacks of All Rocks, which is foreshadowing to us. Obviously, you don't know why you're watching the episode, but after you watch the episode, you understand now. That's like foreshadowing, but also letting us know he still has nightmares, even as we don't know how old he is. Like, I guess he was like 5 or 6 or 7 maybe when his mom got killed. So 9 years, he's 16. But that can't be right, because he calls Maria a teenager. So maybe he was a little bit older. Maybe he's like in his 20s. So he's a young adult, and he's still having nightmares. So it shows he's still psychologically damaged. And then Maria throws bread at him. She's like, right, Victor, to asking her to agree with him. In that moment, it's a nice little moment where, you know, Richter's like, the only thing I care about is you two, and I love you guys. And that shows like why it does so many things. It lets us know Richter hasn't stopped caring about people, which is good. Because that it did, what happened to his mother didn't make him cold, right? It didn't make him bitter. It just probably broke him, you know what I'm saying? But it didn't make him hate humanity or hate anyone. I know it's like, why would he hate humanity? I'm just saying though, like sometimes depending on what happens to you in life, you can't end up, you know, being so broken that nothing matters to you no more. So then, um, moving forward, we have him saying a nice little speech to Maria and her mother, and then you know Maria calls him a dick. So they're showing that he still cares. They're showing how Maria and Richter are like brother sister relationship, and they also show that like he would do anything to protect these two people. Now these are the two people he cares most about in this world. So from there, we you hear night creatures come in front to the you hear night creatures outside the front of the house. So Richter, Maria, and her mother run out front, and then they start fighting these night creatures. But before they fight, Richter is asking Maria's mother, "Hey, do you know what these are, and what are these things?" Like he's never seen a night creature, so we're being told already, obviously from the dialogue, that this is the first time encountering night creatures, and night creatures haven't been seen for centuries because this is way ahead of Castlevania, the first anime. So during this whole time, it's only been vampires, not night creatures. There's have been no night creatures seen for a long time. So right there, that also lets us know things are changing or ramping up to another threat, to another a new threat level. So they're fighting. The night creatures are getting the better of the three of them because they're not used to fighting night creatures. And Richter is like being pinned down by this beetle, and his mouth opens, and green saliva uh, is like showing, and that green, that little bit of green, kind of triggers the nightmare he just had of like of Orox and him finding his mother and killing his mother. And at that moment, if you pay attention, you see him freeze. So they're letting us know, hey, he's not over the psychological damage and trauma he faced as a child. Like this prevents him from functioning. He can't go beyond this. He's frozen. And that's important. I think that was so important to show because you could get confused and be like, oh, so he doesn't, this dude's just willy-nilly killing vampires. Oh, he's over the traumatic event that happened to his mother. Oh, he doesn't care. So they let us know with this with short amount of time, like just putting it in there little by little. Hey, no, he's not over it. He's still traumatically um damaged by it. He just doesn't show it, right? He knows how to hide it. By that moment, he froze and he couldn't hide it. But it wasn't like Maria and her mother could pay attention to, you know, console him or ask him to open up, because at that moment they're dealing with the night creatures. But before this night creature could, you know, pretty much kill a Richter, Annette steps in, stabs the beetle from behind, and then they do this whole introducing each other. Hi, I'm Annette, and then what was her friend's name? Pretty much that's pretty much her brother. Um, I'm gonna butcher this, so forgive me. Edouard. So I butchered that. Apologize. Hey, make fun of me in the comments. But so they're both there and they help out with the night. Well, they killed one. The other ones retreated, and they introduce themselves and they're saying we're here to find Belmont. And Maria's like, well, this wanker here is Belmont, and he's like, oh, hi. And then, you know, they discuss how there's night creatures and something about Messiah. And then Ned says, oh, we know about that. And we was told by, you know, I don't know if she mentions it in this episode, but she's told by like, I don't know what she considers her, but it's almost like her mentor to find on Belmont, and that was a beautiful way to like leave that episode. So now we're set up for the rest of the series of what's gonna be transpiring. So I think that's why I gave the 8 for everything I mentioned. This is my first review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope in the comments, you talk to me, tell me what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. I didn't really go much. I didn't cover like what I didn't like, so I guess I can do that now. What I didn't like in that episode. If I had to say anything, it felt like we didn't get immersed in the world uh enough. Like it felt like we jumped too quick, right? Even though I do praise them for able to give us the important plots within the first episode, it did feel like it was just bang, 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 character introduced, set up, plot, but you weren't able to stay and be immersed within the world. You didn't get to see how the people live. You saw a little bit of the rich people and they're dancing, they don't care about anything, but you didn't get enough of that. You didn't get a feel of the town. You didn't get a feel of the people themselves, the lower class people, or even the rich people. You just saw, people drinking wine and laughing. You didn't get, dialogue of rich people talking smack or poor people being upset. Like that didn't happen this episode. And I felt like that was a hard miss. And that's why I think this episode's an 8. And if you have time or if you want to get, nerdy about it like how I do, I watched the first episode of Castlevania and I saw the difference in how Castlevania did its first episode versus Castlevania Nocturne. And I feel like Castlevania did their first episode much better. I think that's a 10 out of 10 episode. And the reason why I'll say my piece of why is because of what was missing here. You get the immersion of that world very, very fast. Like you understand the people, you understand the environment, you understand what's happening, you know what this land is about. In this one, you miss that. So that's why there's 2 points missing for overall 10. But I enjoyed this first episode. So let me let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And that's me. So catch you in the next one.